when you get a girlfriend in one country and you move on to the next country, do you drop the girlfriend in that country and get a new one?
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. No, I'm just joking. I don't know.
Should I answer that one?
Please, I'm curious.
No, don't answer that one.
I don't want to. Yeah.
Do you like collect them?
No. I've had connections with women that cross borders.
Okay. Hi guys, welcome to Kenganda. My name is Jenny Tamai and this is the Repat Podcast. Today's episode will be spicy and interesting. I'll let my co-hosts introduce themselves.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is your guy, Jay Focus, reminding you to stay focused. You can find me at JAY Focused on YouTube and on Instagram, JAY Focused #1.
O'Shea Duke Jackson, Sacramento, California, 55th generation African American, and glad to be here, my brother from Philadelphia. Let's get into it. So, we were trying to come up with, some different topics. Obviously, you've been traveling over, I think now it's like 70 countries.
Yeah, man, 70.
70?
Wow.
I haven't even been to 70 liquor stores here, but 70 countries. Goddamn. So, and I know that you came to Uganda like in 2018, 2017.
Yeah, the first time. I think I saw your channel and that inspired me to come to Africa.
Okay. And so, but you've been living at least a point in time. Argentina was the last place you lived, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay. So with your experience, obviously this is a diaspora focused channel and, you're a single man. And for the brothers out there that want to know, what is it like dating somebody in the Afro Latina community in these places versus dating somebody from the continent of Africa?
Sure. Okay, I can speak to that. Just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I always loved travel, loved to travel the entire world. I think I visited almost every country in Latin America. So I've got a whole wealth of knowledge, whole lot of experience in that area. So I'm going to tell you, from the States coming down, you've got countries like Panama. Mm-hmm. You've got some parts of Costa Rica. If you look on the Caribbean coast on the U.S., if you want to follow Texas and just move your way down on that Caribbean coast, is where you're going to find the most Africans or Afro-descended people in North America and the Caribbean along that coast. And then once that kind of ends after Panama, you get to Colombia. Mm-hmm. Now, as you probably know, after the States, Colombia, after the States and Brazil, Colombia has the most Afro-descended people in Latin America, like bar none. So if you're looking for an Afro-Latina, you've pretty much got Brazil, you got DR, and you've got Colombia. Okay. And these are places that are very popular with the brothers in the States, and for good reason, right? Because they want something a little bit different, like the Latin culture and the flavor, but they're also looking for somebody that looks like them, someone that can relate to the Black experience. So I feel like Afro-Latinas can provide that for the brothers in the States who are in that part of the world. Okay. It's kind of a match made in heaven in some instances.
What is so good about dating in, you talk about a lot of African American men or brothers.
Yes.
Some might be under the hashtag passport bros.
A few of them, yeah.
Yeah, acronym. What do you say? Or let me say logo. Let me not say acronym. It's not an acronym. But what is so strong about dating within the Latin culture that so many men are attracted to?
That's a good question, and I think for every brother, it's going to be a little bit different. Also, depending on what part of the country you were raised in, because maybe if you grew up in Southern California, you may have a little bit of an aversion to Latin culture because it's typically Mexican, and Blacks and Mexicans in that part of the States don't have the best reputation, Right. And I've lived in California as well. So, I've had those conversations with brothers and they're just like, Latin America is really not something they were attracted to unless you bring up Brazil, they're pretty much like not messing with it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of them aren't aware or they didn't grow up aware that there are people in Latin America that look like us. Okay. You follow me? If you grew up in the East Coast, New Jersey, Philly, Boston, New York, then you grew up around Puerto Ricans, you grew up around Dominicans. Yeah. So you're aware that, there is a connection. They may be a little bit lighter skinned, the hair may be different, but, the African culture is obvious with those groups, right?
Right.
So for me, I was always, around those type of groups, the Puerto Ricans and the Dominicans. So for me to go from the Northeastern culture in the United States to go to the Caribbean, Dominican, Caribbean type Afro culture, it wasn't such a big leap.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's not such a big bridge. Now, you got brothers from Atlanta or something. It might be super exotic to them when they see like any Latino person because, you go back 15 years ago, they didn't have pretty much any. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah, it could be the exotic factor. For other people, maybe it's the language, just the vibe and everything, the energy that, Latin women are said to have. So I think it's a little bit different for every brother. Myself, I learned the language. Before I had, spent any time living in Latin America, I, was attracted to the language. Like I said, I had friends that were Puerto Rican since I was a kid. So it wasn't something that, was just like really foreign to me.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you came to Africa, how has the experience been dealing with the women on the continent?
Okay, that's
the countries that you visited.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been to now about 8 or 9 different African countries, primarily a little bit of North Africa, but most of my time has been spent in East Africa. So when I speak about African women, be aware that that's what I'm speaking about. Okay.
North and East.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, East African women are delightful. I gotta say, I think that's the best word to encompass them. Gorgeous women, very feminine. I think if you're a brother from the States or, Canada, what have you, who's got their stuff together, they're confident, know how to dress a little bit, you're not gonna have any problem.
A little bit.
A little bit. I mean, you don't gotta be I don't even know who's like an icon these days, but I don't know.
Shannon Sharp, Steve Harvey.
Yeah, you ain't gotta be Andre 3000 with the crazy, runway type fashion, suits. But as long as you could put on a clean shirt and maybe iron it, then I think you're gonna have a good time here as far as women. Yeah. Now, I've noticed that even every East African country that I've been to is different.
Okay.
So but overwhelmingly, I would say that across the board, they're going to be more feminine than brothers coming from Western countries are used to. They are going to expect you to be the leader in every way. Any definition of that word, that's what they're going to expect from you. So you may be used to dating women who they want to go half on stuff. They want to, do a co-date planning. There's pretty much none of that here. It's all right. We're gonna do this. You ready? We're gonna do this at this time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's make it happen. So yeah, that can be empowering for some, and for some others, they may not be used to that. It's something that they may have to adapt to. But 100% is gonna put you, for lack of a better word, in your masculine energy, and the women are already in their feminine energy. So you just got to bring it as far as that goes. So I feel like it's a lot less of a power struggle, less of a headache. Now, I will tell you that Latin women, Afro-Latin women, they're known for their spice and for them to be feisty. And in 2023, or whenever you're watching this, the women are not as much of a stereotype as you might have heard. They are going to be quite, I don't want to say combative. They're not quite combative, but I'm going to say there is going to be a lot more of a friction in the relationship as far as like, that kind of a thing. I've had different Afro Latina women in Latin America. You say, hey, let's meet here, XYZ this time. And they might push back on it like, ho. Like, you didn't ask me if I wanted to go there.
Okay.
And yeah. It can depend, but if you're coming from the States and you're expecting it to be a 180, it may not be a 180. It may be 90 degrees from what you're used to, but don't think that it's going to be, 40 years ago, as soon as you get off that plane and land in Bogota, get off that plane and land in Puerto Plata, Santo Domingo, or wherever else in Latin America. Now, that being said, I feel like African women bring something to the table, and Latin American Afro-descended women bring something to the table, and it's a very different dynamic. One thing that I think brothers will really appreciate about East Africa versus Latin America is the language. Because let's face it, most brothers, they're not going to learn Spanish,
right?
Not to a high level. Right. They're not going to learn Portuguese, not to a high level.
Okay.
90% of them, right? when you land in East Africa, whether we're talking about Kampala, Kigali, Nairobi, all you need is English. That's it. You know, you can hit the ground running. The girls are going to speak English. There's not going to be, hey, let me get out Google Translate. Hold up.
Yeah,
what's she talking about? You know what I'm saying?
That was me in Brazil.
I can't even imagine that. I can't even imagine how awkward that would be on a date to be sitting there passing the phone back and forth, or hoping that your phone doesn't run out of battery while it's live translating your conversation. I couldn't deal with that. You know what I'm saying? Especially long term. Now, if you're just going for a vacation, that's one thing. But if you're trying to be in these countries longer term as a digital nomad, or just trying to invest and maybe live in these places, the language barrier is going to hit you. So, like it or not, you're going to have to figure out how to maneuver in those environments. And here, I don't feel like that is an issue. You know what I'm saying? You can hit the ground running. You can make things work all in English.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually do have the countries that you go to, what's the process like? Do you like go on Tinder and meet women? Do you go to the mall, and what's the process like for you?
Okay, for me personally, I feel like you don't have to do one thing. I feel like you can do everything. So if I'm in a bank and I'm waiting in line, I can talk to the girl in line. I'm not afraid to open up my mouth. And at the same time, Tinder, whatever other app you have, is a valuable tool. And I would not neglect that tool when, it exists.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I can go out to a bar or a nightclub and I can meet women that way. So I feel like it's not like one or the other. It's wherever women are, you can meet them as long as you have a strong personality and some type of confidence about you.
Yeah. And you can talk to them.
Yeah,
So I know
absolutely.
she wants to say something.
No, let me. I want to have a little bit be equal today
Sure.
because
You're going to do the devil's advocate thing with me?
No.
Okay.
We have some ladies out there that want to live in the continent. A lot of the people that repatriate, actually, it's not even really men. It's mostly black
Absolutely.
women.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't really see many of us moving here, but you see more black women moving here, right?
Absolutely.
So what do you think that basically from where they're coming from? I don't know if they would ever go to Latin America or anything like that. There are some black women that go to Colombia, DR, things like that.
Yeah.
But what do you think that most of them would have a better opportunity in dating if it was women?
That's a very good question. I feel like a lot of
Because Joan's single, so she wants to know.
I feel like a lot of black women in the diaspora who would move to a place like Mexico, like a Tulum or something like that, or a Colombia or a Brazil. Largely, I feel like they would be unsatisfied for several reasons. I think it could be kind of similar to the continent. Obviously, it's going to depend on each individual lady, but if they're expecting a man who is going to make more than them, assuming that, they come from a mid-sized American city,
Right.
and, they're used to a certain lifestyle,
Right.
Let's just throw out a number, let's say 50K, right? 50K and up or down or somewhere around there, right? They're not going to meet a man in any of these places that we just mentioned who's going to make anything close to that, right? Of course, you do have the elites, you have the upper class guys, but those guys, come on. These are the international playboys. These guys have, women falling out of their pocket.
Yeah, they're most likely gone already.
Yeah, exactly. They're married and what have you. So I feel like in most of those instances that I've ran into black American women, usually they're looking for expats. They're looking for other brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, who are already there.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of across the board. Now, you do have some sisters who may move to Brazil, and in Brazil, they would have the highest chance of finding, a black man, if that's
Right.
what they're looking for, right? So if they were looking in Latin America, I would say that would be the number one place to go for them. But at the same time, like I said, the economic difference is going to be big.
Right.
And then also, what those men are going to expect from the women is going to be vastly different.
Okay.
A British chick or a chick from New York who goes to Brazil and they're expecting, this guy who's, who doesn't speak with his chest, for lack of a better word.
Right.
They're not going to find that. If they're looking for this masculine guy, there are, people throw around the word toxic masculinity.
Right.
I don't subscribe to that, but if that's the word, I would say the quote unquote toxic masculinity is a lot stronger in Latin America than it is in the States or in
Right.
England or something like that. And the local women complain about that, you know. So if they're gonna think they're gonna leave whatever problems they feel exist in the US dating market,
Right.
they're gonna be in for a rude awakening once they
Right.
get down there. You
And
know,
they
if it's-
don't take too much shit down there either, bro.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. These guys are not afraid to put hands on you, for lack of a better word. I'm not gonna say that across the board, and no,
Right.
I'm not, saying this is every guy, but I'm saying that the protection and security that they have in Western countries,
Yeah.
that doesn't exist
No, it doesn't.
in these other countries.
Yeah. And that's something we talked about here with Mark Meets Africa, older women in Tanzania. And that's something that, that's really interesting for a lot of ladies who I've heard of the same issues happening in Gambia, Tanzania, That's why these repack groups are good. They're single men coming from the diaspora. If you feel like that's a better thing. There's a lot of single people in the diaspora that want to connect to Africa. That might be your best bet, because what I'm noticing is, as a man, I guess it's not as hard to date somebody out of the culture. It can be for sure, but this is really extremely hard for a woman.
Absolutely, yeah. I see how, for a guy, of course, you anyone is going to struggle with things like language and culture, but in the vast majority of the world outside of the West, the man does have a higher status as long as he's not, a complete dirtbag.
Right.
And it's almost the reverse for the women, where they're going to have to prove themselves because
Yes.
they're entering a competitive market.
Yeah.
I really don't think there's anywhere that a sister from the diaspora can go in a developing market and be able to compete, because there's far more single women
Yes.
in these countries compared to back home.
And then you talk about some place like Uganda or Kenya where everybody is super young, you know what I mean?
And then women date up anyway.
Yeah,
Women,
date up.
For lack of a better word, they status climb, socially.
Yeah.
And, that's no shade. I mean, it's just how it's always been. So for them to upgrade when the pool of men, like I said, let's say 50K, which isn't that much, but let's say 50K is, the benchmark. To find a guy who's making more than 50K in Colombia, in Brazil, in Nigeria, maybe in Lagos or something like that. But outside of that, you know what I'm saying? These developing countries, it's just not going to exist. So you're going to have women competing for a very, very small pool of men who know their worth. They walk on water when they appear. You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to tell people, like, the guys who have money in these places in Africa, Latin America, these guys are like almost like gods.
Absolutely. And it's something that, you could hear it 100 times, but until you exist in that environment, you will never really know the difference.
Let me do some math here. I think last time I checked, Kenya, for example, has now, as of 2022, hold on. What is the population of Kenya? Anybody know? I'm trying to
50
Google it.
million?
Let's just
might be
say,
off.
let's just say, I think it's like 55 million.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay, let me just make sure I get it right. 70. Let's say it's 7,750 millionaires divided by 5500000. So 0.0001%. Okay, I'm gonna minus 100% minus 0.00014. That means 99.99986% of men are not a millionaire. This is almost 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how hard it is. And Uganda is even worse. Uganda has like 3,000 millionaires. So if you're a guy who happens to be a millionaire in this country, this is how valuable you are there economically.
And could you expect a man like this to be monogamous? Is that even realistic?
It is.
Is it?
It could happen,
It can happen.
but it probably
The faithful men out there.
it's possible, but you can't guarantee that.
Yeah, and if these men do exist, I won't say that they don't, but those same men, they are 9 times out of 10 going to have a woman already. You know what I'm saying? If there's this family guy, this very religious guy, he's going to be wifed up very early. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if a foreign woman would come here and think that she has a shot with this guy, I mean, the statistics just are not in your favor.
It's just
and
he don't have no reason to put up with whatever your issues may or may not be.
Exactly. And
you probably can never even get to him. Like, that's one thing too about rich people.
You wouldn't even have the contact.
you can't, people who are rich and extremely wealthy, you can't access them like anywhere in the world. You just can't walk up and talk to them. No, like you can't even see them. You can't even hang out with them. Yeah, like imagine you going like they may be more accessible to somebody in the States, but you just can't get to them. They're in their own communities, their own world. You can't access them.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of women in the West have said things like they want to, you know, smash the patriarchy and get away from the patriarchy. Well, Africa, you're in the wrong place if you came here. You know, if you came to Ghana, you came to Nigeria or whatever, and you thought you were going to get you, you know, a beach boy or whatever. And he's going to be this passive little mouse. Like, nah, it's going to be very old school. You know, it's going to be like the way your grandma interacted with her husband. So all this modern stuff is just not going to fly with the vast majority of men on the continent.
Yeah, or Latin America.
These are foreign ideas, just like, you know, not to get into a whole nother topic, the whole rainbow situation.
Yes.
There are things that in the West we take for granted. Like this is 2023.
Yeah.
How are you not on board with this? And then you look at the African perspective and they're like, nah, you guys can keep all of that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that goes into the dating and the gender roles as well, where, you know, they watch our shows, they see our movies, and, you know, they look at that like, that's curious. You know, the Americans live like that, but we don't want that.
Right.
We can laugh at it. We can be entertained by it, but we want our culture. We want the traditions and the religion and the respect that we've built up over centuries. And we're not going to easily let that, you know, be pushed aside.
What do you say about that, Joan?
Yeah. Nothing. I mean, you have a great point. I hope that whoever is watching
Does it make sense?
is listening. I hope whoever is watching is listening. It's not about me. But I hope that whoever is watching is listening to what you're saying. I mean, you have experience. You've been to all these countries, so I'm sure your exposure has, you know, given you a certain amount of information that most people don't have.
Sure.
Now, I'm gonna get a bit. Are you a passport bro?
No. So I reject that term because number one, I was traveling way before this term existed. And I feel like the term, I don't know what the term started as, but I feel like the term became a shorthand for tricking, for simping, for going overseas and saying like, hey, you know, they're going to take all my money in the States, but they're going to take it here, but at least she's beautiful. Like that kind of a mentality. And that's not what I have. So no, I would never define myself as a passport bro. But at the same time, I wouldn't hate on the passport bros. I can respect their point of view. I can respect the fact that it may be their best option. I don't know what it's like to be a truck driver in Atlanta and, you know, the sister's not messing with you. They're like, oh, what do? You drive a truck? Like, nah, I'm not feeling it. So, you know, what are these men supposed to do? I know there's a lot of talk about, you know, well, self-improvement, get in the gym, do X, Y, Z. But, you know, some of these brothers, they are in the gym and they're still running into problems. Like, you know, one of the things that people try to say is like, well, you know, the passport bros, they're losers. They're the unattractive guys. Nobody wants them. But, you know, then you look at a brother like Austin Holloman, who, you know, who's been on the show, and he's one of the symbols, I guess, of the movement. And, you know, he's a young brother. Most people would say he's decent looking. And when he travels the world, he doesn't run into the same kind of problems that he was running into in Texas. Now, like I said, I can't speak for, you know, this brother. He speaks for himself all over, you know, the internet. But I'm just saying this is a representation of a group of men who, for whatever reason, in the States felt like they weren't getting their fair shake. And I would not hate on these guys, but at the same time, I would not adopt that label. Yeah.
Well said. Such a political answer, but it's very good. But no, that's well said. That's a different perspective because I don't think most women were looking at it like that.
Yes.
So this is a different take, and it's a very good take on that.
Do you want to move to Latin America now?
No,
You sure?
no, I'm fine. I'm good where I am.
You know, she would be exotic in Latin America. I will say this.
Why?
Because, okay, so it depends where you go. So, you know, I'm going to try to make this as short as possible. But in Latin America, as I said, when you start going from Texas down the coast along the Caribbean side, you've got lots of blacks, just like in the States, right? But once you get a little bit more south, you get down to the countries like Uruguay, you get to the countries like Argentina, You get down to Chile, down there, it's very white, surprisingly white. So I moved around in those spaces for many years. And in those places, I catch people's eye. Like people will stare at me,
Yeah.
you know, and the same with you. If you were to come out there, they don't see like, you know, such African chocolate, you know, shining black girl magic. They don't see that on a regular basis. So yeah, they would probably stop you to take pictures in the southern parts. Now, if you're in Brazil, they think you're Brazilian, right? But if you went down to Argentina, Chile, like I said, you would definitely be
Take pictures, but that's it though. Take your ass on after the picture.
a beauty. Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah, so hey,
Yeah.
we're looking for that report if you want to head down that way.
Maybe I might just go there.
You might have
The
a
way
model,
things are
you might have a
looking in this
modeling
country.
career because
But yeah. Oh, thank you for that.
yeah. I met a girl, a young lady, about your complexion and looks, and she was from Mozambique. And you know, I never met African chicks like straight from Africa in Argentina. And you know, I ran into her at this African restaurant. And she was like, yeah, you know, I'm out here, I'm modeling, I have these contracts or whatever. So
Really?
yeah, you know, I think it's one of those things where it's just considered an exotic beauty. Like I've heard people say that they may not be able to get a job modeling in, I'm trying to think of the country. I can't think of it, but they said, you know, like in Italy, you know, black anything will sell. You know, they put a black woman on, you know, something, and you know, people gravitate to that even more than in the States, where it's like, you know, not a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you can go to Italy and get you some pizza
you
and stuff
might.
like that. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, thank you for that. Osha, do you have anything else before
Nah,
we close
great
this one?
episode.
Yeah.
Learned a lot.
Yeah. Jay, do you have any message for your brothers out
Yeah,
there?
anybody
looking?
subscribe to
Hey
the
man,
channel?
number one, I just want to say I'm going right now on a 1-year voyage around Africa. So in the past, I've been mainly confined to Northern Africa and Eastern Africa. But on this trip, I'm going to explore as much of the continent as I can see. So you're going to see me down south. You're going to see me out west. I'm going to try to cover as much as possible. And my channel is going to be interviews with local people. You're going to get some talk about dating, because I know a lot of y'all, you know, y'all kind of thirsty. Nah, I'm messing with y'all.
No,
I'm
they
messing with-
definitely thirsty.
Yeah, some people are dehydrated out there, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, there's going to be some of that out there, and, you know, it's going to be interactive. So if there's some content that you guys are feeling and you're like, hey, when you're in XYZ city, can you do XYZ? Can you talk to some people? Hey, I'm open to it, to collabos. So, you know, hit me up. Easy to find. JAY Focused 1 on Instagram, and on YouTube, it's just J Focused. All right.
Thank you for that. One last question. When you get a girlfriend in one country and you move on to the next country, do you drop the girlfriend in that country and
wow.
get a new one?
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. No, I'm just joking. I don't know.
Should I answer that one?
Please, I'm
I
I'm
answer that
curious. I just
No,
want to know.
don't answer that one.
No, I just
Yeah,
want to know.
I don't want to, yeah.
Or
I
do you like collect them?
No. No. I'll just say I've had connections with women that cross borders.
Okay.
So, you know, interpret that as you will.
Okay.
I feel like if you meet the right one, why couldn't they travel with me?
Oh,
You know,
your answers are on the fence. It's like
Hey.
you don't want to pick a side.
He's a
But yeah,
politician.
thank you so much, Jay.
Yeah,
Osha,
appreciate you.
anything else?
No.
Where can they
Don't look for me on the internet.
Well, do follow him on Instagram at
yeah, the
Osha
whole
Duke.
continent. You're going to see it all.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, if you have anything you'd like to share with us, you can email us at teamkenganda@gmail.com, and also follow us on all our social media pages. We also have a WhatsApp group for our viewers. I'd forgotten about that one. It is on fire. So if you want to join, the link is in the description box. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.